So when we look at the population, it would be that group of people that would fit within the broader purpose of our research. The people that, in terms of the biggest picture, would provide us with our information for the study. The easiest way to do that is to then go to our research problem. Our research problem, and remember I said this a couple of times, that everything starts and finishes with the research problem. Everything absolutely starts and finishes with the research problem. Okay, guys, people are asking questions on this, the STML group about the word count. I'll answer that later. Guys, and then also, I think the key thing is the one thing that binds that population together is that single characteristic. So that single characteristic will always be that one thing that will essentially allow us to answer our research question. And it will always be that overall, that overarching research question. So when you think back to our research questions from last week, remember when we discussed the qualitative research question, I spoke about the overarching single research question and then the clarifying questions. And I often suggested that those clarifying questions look at processes, etc. We also looked at it from a positivist perspective, where we have the single research question and from there the hypotheses. That research question to me is as important as the problem statement. And that problem statement obviously will start this process of the golden thread. And part of continuing with this golden thread, where everything links together logically, will always be making sure that this population is that group of individuals that will give us answers to address our research question. Okay. That gives us our population parameters. It gives us the framework of those individuals that would essentially provide us answers in terms of our research question. So, Amber, your group of individuals would be those people who have been through COVID, those people who have changed their purchasing patterns. I think you are doing interpretivism, so you have a broad population of people who have changed their purchasing patterns, and it's nearly every single person who buys nonsense in their house. It's all those individuals who take the purchasing decisions in the house. Is that fair in terms of your research question, Amber?
Or yes, potential
question.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Okay, so that would be your population, right? So essentially, it's the unique characteristics of those individuals that we require to address our research question. Okay, guys, again, we are limited in terms of word count, so be very, very careful in terms of your word count. Just give me an idea of what a population is, and then refine your discussion in terms of your research. From the population, we then maneuver on to the target population and the accessible population. Let's be honest, not all of us will have access to, if we think of COVID, everyone in the world. We're not going to have access to everyone in South Africa. We will start isolating people. I mean, for me, I would start thinking of people in KwaZulu-Natal, maybe in the Midlands, in Pietermaritzburg, because I live in Pietermaritzburg. So I'll start narrowing down in terms of my supposedly accessible population. And all of you will do the same thing, because you have to think logically about those people that you potentially can access. Now, because we're using online interviews, and because we are going to use, and obviously you can use face-to-face interviews as well, but because we're using Google Online, you're not that limited, but you don't want to just go global, because I think different cultures, different countries, different societies have unique aspects to them. And so you want to limit yourself at least to a country, to a province, or to a region. I think I would do that. Okay, so these are the people that you actually want to include in your study. Those people we can reach, those people that we can get our questionnaires to. And I understand that obviously it's online and Google Forms is online, but we have to be realistic in terms of who we can reach. So keep narrowing it down. You have to keep narrowing it down. Again, thinking of the word count limitations, I think that's always going to be a bit of a headache for us. And then narrowing it down in terms of those people that we can actually access. Guys, and then, yeah, the considerations in summary are those there. Any questions on that?
So I just want to ask then from my perspective, because mine is in relation to short-term insurance, if I limited it to the company that I work for then, but then broaden the scope by maybe looking at each division in the company, would that be enough? Or would you have to go to multiple?
Yeah, you can limit it to your company, that you're accessible. Yeah, wonderful. So you'll start with the broad South African people, people decision takers in terms of. No, not yet at all, Whitney. No, we're not getting to that at all. We'll get to the questionnaires in a second. Don't worry about the questionnaires yet, but you can. So you start with people in South Africa who take purchasing decisions with regard to hygiene products during COVID and post-COVID. That would be your overall population. Okay, and then narrowed it down to the accessible population would be ultimately people inside your organization. Okay. To narrow it down to the people who you want to include in your research, you would then do your sampling. Now, I've separated it here because, yeah, when it comes to sampling, we need to obviously discuss it slightly from a different angle. In terms of positivism, my apologies, you will always, when it comes to positivism, have probability sampling. There are exceptions to the rule, and if you are going to have an exception to the rule, and I need to explain this, you can step away from this and have an exception to the rule, but you'd have to explain that. You'd have to, in your report, tell us why you've not done what the tradition, what the golden thread would require from a positivist quantitative perspective. But generally, when you do quantitative research, you will go with a probability sampling approach, which means that everyone in your population, in your accessible population, has an equal opportunity of being selected. So probability sampling is part of that golden thread. So it will go positivism, it will go quantitative research, and it will go probability sampling. Please make sure that you guys get this right. We don't want to mess this up simply because the simple truth is, the moment you start wandering away from this, people see that you've lost the golden thread, and people then start questioning whether you actually understand research. So these are the kinds of things that form an essential part of writing up your final report, of giving us the impression that you actually know what you're doing. So in terms of probability sampling, the two options are random sampling and systematic sampling. Guys, remember, we are so pushed for time. We are so pressed for word count. I wouldn't get fancy and do systematic sampling. There are a whole bunch of other sampling options. I've kept it very simple. I've kept it to the easier or the most frequently used options. I would go simple random sampling. It's like putting names in a hat and drawing from the hat. For me, that is the only way I would do it. I would do random sampling. Is everyone okay with that? Now, this is obviously if you have a hypothesis, if you have a single research question, if your paradigm is positivism, and if your methodology is quantitative research. You can already hear that we're starting to build this golden thread. And when you have those things in place, the people that will complete your questionnaire on Google Forms will be your respondents, your research respondents. Your random sampling under the umbrella of probability sampling. Remember your golden thread. I cannot emphasize that enough. Any questions on that? And please don't overthink this, guys. This is still straightforward. At this stage, this is straightforward theory with a bit of application, which honestly, we've got such great topics that the application is not going to be monstrous. Guys, you're too quiet and you make me nervous. Don't let me call out specific names. Mads, you okay? Ransom, you very quiet, boy. And Whitney, you're okay. Okay. Guys, I'm going to stay with I'm going to do the rest of the research methodology in terms of positivism, and then I'll go through, as with positivism, the interpretivism approach. So the research design, in terms of research design, we know that it is quantitative research. We know that there are variables. We have an independent variable. We have a dependent variable. You've got those in your title already. And it really is that we will work on deductive research. We will take an existing theory and we'll test that theory within a particular context. The way that we'll do it is through a survey. Please don't. And I've just put in an experiment, but we're not going to do experiments here. We're going to do it in a survey. We will use, oh, shucks, Ransom, I'm sorry, boy, I am recording this. We are going to use a survey. In terms of the survey, you will use Google Forms. You can write that already in your discussion. And remember, we are using existing scales. In the very first day, we already said that we are selecting existing scales. So when we put together our questionnaire, as Whitney asked earlier, we're simply just going to steal questions from that questionnaire. We're not going to create our own questions. We're not going to create our own questionnaire. We're going to simply steal questions from an existing Likert scale questionnaire. So don't worry about that. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're not going to try and we're not going to try and set up our own questionnaires, because to do that, we would have to go through an entire process of validating our own questionnaires. And that certainly is not our intention whatsoever. Okay. So, Whitney, don't worry about the questionnaire. We're just going to steal what is already in existence. Okay. And remember back to the very, very first lecture, our first intention was to find existing scales. So in terms of data collection, you'll use a survey, and the survey will be done via the internet. And I've given all the theory here. You don't have to write all the rubbishy theory stuff here. It's done via the internet, and it's going to be done on Google Forms. Just remember, if you are going to struggle using Google Forms, I'll set up a quick training session. I'll ask one of my existing honors students to do it for you, or if you guys have figured it out yourself, remember, we've agreed that we're a team and we are going to help each other. Has anyone had a chance to look at Google Forms yet? Maddie, have you had a chance? Is it okay? Is it quite intuitive, Whitney? Mads, can you guys help each other? Can you set up a little bit of a Zoom and help each other? Oh, okay, very cool. Madeline, can I ask that you set up a bit of a training session for people and you guys just help each other in setting up the forms? Don't know if that's too much to ask. Yeah, I'll discuss it on WhatsApp, guys. The one thing you have to remember when you use Google Forms, the default is that they put the numbers in reverse order. So, you know, the number 5 is not where it should be. It's where number 1 is. So you just need to swap number 1 and 5 around and make sure that number 5 sits at, if you have a Likert scale, very likely instead of unlikely. You just need to swap those two around. That is the only change that you need to make, but that's pretty simple to do. I'm pretty sure you guys can sort yourselves out on, and remember, we have agreed that we're in a boat together and we're going to jump in and help each other here. Okay, thanks, Whitney. Thanks so much, Madeline. Guys, and then Data. Yeah, go.
Sorry, just a quick one. So all these headings, are they then still, as with last week, then still subheadings? So we'll put the heading of each of these and then just a small discussion underneath.
Yeah, so we'll look at it in terms of, at this stage, don't worry about the headings. We'll look at it in terms of the rubric. So we'll look at it in terms of the rubric. But yeah, they're still subheadings. Okay, so we'll see where they fit into the rubric. Okay. So we'll contextualize it in terms of the rubric and we'll create headings there. Okay. Okay, just let Ransom know, guys, that I am recording the session. Thanks. Okay, just remember, guys, in terms of positivism, in terms of qualitative research, we are trying to make sure that we are going to get research that are valid, reliable, and objective and generalizable. We're not going to talk too much about generalizability simply because our group of respondents is not going to be big enough to generalize, but we're still going to make sure that we have reliable and valid research. Don't worry about the statistical analysis at this stage. I will share, have I uploaded the recording on how to do the percentages and the mean and the mode and those kinds of things in order to do a basic correlation? I don't think I've done it, but it will happen. We're not there yet, so don't fuss about that, guys. At this stage, we worried about what's ahead of us right now. Here is a data analysis method. We're doing descriptive analysis, and you can see what you need to write if they want us to give a basic description of what you're going to do in terms of your analysis. I'm not going to go through that. It's quite intuitive there. Right, so for the people who are doing qualitative research, interpretivism, so it really is about understanding people's perceptions, views of the world. It's about immersing ourselves into people's worlds and understanding how people see their worlds. The key thing here, and yeah, Amber, you'll see I've made slight adjustments to your paper. You are doing deductive research, but you won't use the term hypothesis and things like that. You'll see I've clearly explained. So you will never use the term hypothesis because it breaks that rule in terms of the golden thread. But you'll see I've clarified on your document. Okay, we are still doing deductive research, but the deductive research is we're using existing theories and we're going to find examples from our interviews to support the existing theories. So we are going to use still existing theories. So essentially, we're going to, although it says here inductively, and yes, generally, for me, generally, qualitative research is inductive. I despise doing deductive qualitative research. I don't think we should ever do deductive qualitative research, but truthfully, we have too much on our plate to do this inductively. It just the data analysis process takes a long time. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And the research and theory allows us to do deductive qualitative research. It is not the ideal, and I wish I could allow you guys the privilege and the freedom to do inductive research. There is a real sense of achievement once you start creating your own bits of theory, but we have to be realistic. If you want to do it inductively, I'm quite happy to help with it, but my goodness me, it is a hell of a lot of extra work, and it's time consuming as hell. Having said that, if anyone wants to take it on, I'm quite happy to assist with that. So we are doing deductive research, and we are going to have existing theories, and we're going to look in our interviews, and we're going to use the existing theories to frame our interview questions to find support of these existing theories in terms of people's real life experiences. Population and sampling, generally, no. We will use non-probability sampling, which means that essentially people don't have an equal opportunity to be selected as part of the sample. Because we want people who've had specific experiences, because we want people who have lived through specific events, we use non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling is the umbrella term. My suggestion is that you use non-probability purpose of sampling. Purpose of sampling is where you identify a particular individual and you go and find that individual to interview. So you purposively identify that individual to interview. If you find one person, you can also combine it with snowball sampling, where that person you initially identified suggests another person for you to see. I'm quite happy for you to do it. Or you can simply just use purposive sampling and identify those individuals that you believe would contribute, would make data-rich contributions. I've put this in. The qualitative tradition that we're using is phenomenology. And essentially, the reason we use phenomenology is because we are looking at that last block there. We are looking at the description of the essence of people's experiences. So Amber, in terms of what you're doing, you're looking at the essence of those experiences in transitioning and making changes to the purchasing patterns as they relate to products that essentially would have been bought during COVID. Okay, and you can see what we look for: statements, meanings, descriptions of experiences. And you'll see long interviews. We're not doing 10 people because we don't have the time, but it is understanding the essence of experiences. Please look at that. It's a wonderful way of describing what you want to achieve as well, those people that are doing qualitative research. It's a lovely way of explaining what we're trying to actually discern from the research. Okay, data collection, that is what we're doing. Okay, open-ended, semi-structured, semi-standardized, standardized, open-ended interviews. We'll talk about that. You'll remember when we looked at your research questions, We said you can only ask what and how questions. We don't allow why questions. The same thing will happen when we do your interview questions. Don't confuse your research questions with your interview questions. And then obviously a bigger discussion, and the fact that I don't hyphen open-ended is an indication of how stupid I am. A little bit more information on interviews there in terms of data collection. Yeah, there's an interview protocol that you will use when we start putting the actual interviews together, and we'll get to it when we get there. The data analysis, I've put in a data analysis. Yeah, we will chat about that. You can discuss that, but we'll worry about the analysis. I've added the slide in. It's not in the rubric, simply because I have to do an ethical clearance on this document. Just use this as part of your ethics, that you essentially will inform people of their rights, that you're not going to do any harm in terms of your research, and that there will be benefit from the research. Please remember that. I will put in the forms that you will use as part of your research as well. So to look at the, oh goodness me. So to look at the rubric then quickly. Okay, so sampling, that would be your population and sampling. The description there. I don't know where the word count is, guys. You can have a look at it. And then outline of your methodology, so quantitative or qualitative. And from there, the actual process of collecting data and analyzing data. Okay. And remember, if you are doing quantitative research from a golden thread perspective, thanks Mads for that. From a golden thread perspective, you will talk validity and reliability. If you are doing qualitative, you will only use the term trustworthiness. Do not mix those two together. If you're doing quantitative research, you will talk about respondents. If you're doing qualitative research, you will talk about research participants. And then, guys, I will send you these. I'll upload these on the group. You might have to make changes. They've not given us forms specifically for this course. I will share the honors forms with you guys. And I'll put the slides on the group right now, the updated slides. Sorry, guys, I know it went quickly. I've got a class straight after this. Any questions? I hate it when you guys are so quiet. It makes me think that I'm not doing my job properly.
So I just wanted clarity quickly with regards to the consent forms, because last week you shared the participant or respondent consent form and then audio or video recording. So then do we just edit those documents based on our specific research?
Yeah, you'll see what is where. Yeah, you'll see what is where. But you also have to change it to postgraduate diploma. Have I not uploaded those, guys, or have I? Please just tell me that, because I'm truthfully, my life is so. Okay, did I?
You did upload them,
for that.
yeah.
Okay, because normally I'm so useless at these things. Okay, so yeah, so you'll see it's pretty straightforward, and where it says honors, just change it to postgraduate diploma, and you'll see the rest is quite intuitive. I don't know if that answered your question.
And then, sorry, so then if we're not doing any audio video recordings, would we still include that consent form in our project?
Yeah, no, well, you'll have to do audio recordings. If you're doing quantitative research, no.
Quantitative,
then yeah. Well, if you're doing quantitative, then you don't. then you don't have to worry about it. Sorry,
Okay,
Amber, are
thank
you
you.
doing quantitative research?
I'm doing
Sorry,
qualitative.
okay, sorry, I've got something in front of my. Can I just quickly? Can I just do this because I haven't got my screen open? I've got something covering my screen because I don't know who I'm talking to, and I'm basing it on voices now, which is quite stupid. My apologies. Okay, Remy. Slides. Okay, so guys, the next slides are there, or the updated slides are there. Okay, so who did I just talk to? Was it you, Amber? So Amber, you're doing qualitative, so you need the consent form for recording. Who spoke before that?
That was me. So then I also just, sorry, it's Madeline,
Sorry, Mad.
quantitative.
Yeah,
So
sorry,
then
Mad.
I just also want to check that gatekeeper's letter, is that also going to get edited and included in this part of the submission?
Yeah, if you're going to go into a particular company and the company, geez, sorry, I'm getting invited to a meeting and I'm not going there. If you, I think by Saturday we would have also have started and we'll have more. Just remember, guys, you can't do bugger all in terms of going to your respondents or participants at this stage. Your gatekeepers is if you go into a particular company and you're going to research a particular company. But so, for example, for you, Amber, you're just going to ask your colleagues in a company. It has nothing to do with the actual company. But if your research is about that particular company, even though you're going to be anonymous about the company, you have to get permission from that company. Sorry, Madeline, if that answers your question. The gatekeepers has to be included. Has to be signed by whoever the gatekeeper will be. Yeah?
So then, sorry if I'm not understanding, but then like in the context of mine where it's with regards to short-term insurance, so then that's why it's limited to my company. Would it be needed necessary then? Because it's not necessarily related to the company, but the industry.
Okay, just remind me what your research is.
So mine is whether there's a link between employee benefits and the level of job satisfaction within short-term insurance.
But you're doing it in your company. You're doing it in your company. You will need a gatekeepers.
Okay, then thank you. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. No, don't worry about it. No, you're asking reasonable questions. You absolutely need a gatekeepers, okay? It's almost, yeah, no, 100% will need a gatekeepers. Hi, Amber.
I just wanted to ask the documents that you uploaded that Madeline was talking about, like the video call and all of that. That needs to be uploaded in the part 2 submission, the one that we're handing in.
Yes, like it has to be. Stick it in as an annexure and refer to it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So just also in terms of, I think it was Madeline or Amber's question earlier, guys, here are your main headings. Okay, so in terms of how are we going to do this? REMY Rationale will be part of that. Will be part of your. How are we going to do it? What did we say last week the headings would be? Have we given headings for this? Have we given an outline for this?
We just had, so far, we had the title, then the introduction, and then under the introduction was the problem statement, research objective, aim and rationale.
Aim and rationale. Okay. Yeah. Then the second major heading would be, we'll call this methodology, research methodology. Under research methodology, you will have population and population and sampling. No, let's do population. And then your second subheading will be sampling. You see, now they have your methodology there. Okay, and then do data collection as the next subheading. And data analysis, and then conclusion. Oh no, data collection, data analysis.
So would research design also go?
You see, I'm trying to get the right term so that I don't bugger this up. Okay, I tell you what, let's do research design as the main heading. Let's do research design as the main heading. Sorry, Mads, that's a good point. Let's do, so the first main heading is your introduction. You know, the title is there, the introduction. Then we'll do research design. Under research design, we will do population as a subheading. We will do sampling as another subheading. We will do it's so hickledy-pickledy. The way they've done is infuriating, actually. This rubric. Then do data collection. Yeah, no. You see, it's so out of. Let's do research design. Under research design, make reference to your research methodology, that it is quantitative or qualitative. Okay, linking it to the first assignment, the interpretivism or the positivism. Okay, then put your population, then put your sampling, then put your data collection, and then put your data analysis. Can somebody put that on the group for me, please, Mads, if you don't mind? And then, guys, okay, and then we want to have a heading. Just put ethical requirements. Put ethical requirements. And in your ethical requirements, guys, just those basic elements. It's not in the rubric. You won't get marks for it. You won't lose marks for it. But as sure as hell, when I take this to the ethics committee, which will be myself, I don't even know who, I don't think they have a PGEL in this, in distance. I wouldn't even know who else I would trust to be with on this committee, to be honest with you. I think they're going to be blown away, or they wouldn't even know or be aware that I have to have this committee. But I've been told I have to because I've got to do it for Westville. Well, I'm also on the main meetings for these. Let's just do it. I might even slot you guys in with my Westville group. That's what I'll do. I'll take your research forward to the Westville group when we do that meeting. I'll use their PGEL and stuff just to cover myself, guys. Okay, just put ethical requirements and use that last slide. Okay.
Can I please ask a question?
Yes, of course.
For data analysis, what are we writing under that heading? What are we meant to?
You saw the slides? It's
yeah.
in the slides.
Okay.
That's all you do. Yeah. Interpretivism and versus or positivism versus interpretivism. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, anything else? I know that I'm pushing you guys, but the truth is we are going to do well here. It's as simple as that. We are going to do well. And remember, guys, the group is a place where we help each other, where you ask me questions, where, yeah, stuff happens. Oh, you're a star, Mads. Thank you so much. Oh, it's a pleasure, Amber. I don't think I do much at all. I think you guys are rocking this, but it is a pleasure. Okay, it is a pleasure.